For centuries, we've been told a simple story about human flight. It goes something like this. In 1783, the Montgolfier brothers took to the sky in a hot air balloon. Decades later, a steam engine gave birth to the first clumsy, navigable airship. And then came the giants, the magnificent, tragic zeppelins, before they vanished in a blaze of fire and obsolescence. But what if that story is wrong? What if the concept of lighter-than-air travel is not a product of the industrial age, but an ancient dream, whispered through mythology and glimpsed in forgotten texts? What if the airship's history isn't just one of invention, but of rediscovery? Welcome to a journey that will challenge everything you thought you knew about our journey to the skies. Long before the first propeller spun, human imagination was already building ships of the air. The evidence isn't in a patent office, it's etched in our oldest stories. Take the Greek myth of Daedalus and Icarus. We remember the wax melting, but forget the core technology. Daedalus constructed artificial wings from feathers and wax. This isn't just a fable about hubris, it's a detailed thought experiment in biomimicry and lightweight construction. Then look east. In Chinese legend, the sage emperor Shun escaped a burning tower not by jumping, but by using special birdwork clothing, an account some modern scholars interpret as a primitive parachute or glider. The Shanhai Jing, an ancient Chinese text, describes the land of the one-armed, whose people built flying chariots that traveled with the wind. A 17th century illustration of this text shows not a vague cloud, but a distinct, boat-like vehicle with twin rotor systems and wings, a stunningly mechanical vision. In ancient India, the Vimanas, flying palaces or chariots described in Sanskrit epics, are often dismissed as pure fantasy. Yet their detailed descriptions of multi-story decks, domed canopies, and roaring engines have fueled centuries of speculative interpretation. Were they just poetic metaphors, or echoes of a conceptual understanding of aerial vessels? This was not just idle dreaming. It was proto-engineering. In 1663, Italian Jesuit scholar Francesco Lana de Terzi conceived of a flying boat lifted by 4 copper spheres from which all air had been evacuated. He correctly identified the principle of buoyancy through displacement, but tragically also predicted its military use. Decades later, another priest, Bartholomew de Gusmão, petitioned a king to fund a mysterious airship project. The pattern is clear: the intellectual scaffolding for the airship was being built not in workshops, but in monasteries and royal courts, centuries before the technology could make it real. So, what happened to these ideas? Did they simply vanish, waiting to be reinvented? Or was the knowledge preserved, hidden in plain sight? The official history jumps from de Terz's 1663 sketches directly to the Montgolfiers in 1783. That's a gap of 120 years. It was George Orwell who said, "He who controls the present, controls the past. He who controls the past, controls the future." Thus the winners write history, and in the 18th century, the winners of science were establishing rigid, empirical methodologies. Fanciful ideas from alchemists and priests didn't fit the new narrative. But let's ask a controversial question. What if there were more advanced experiments that were lost, suppressed, or deliberately obscured? Consider the political and religious climate. An invention that could allow a person to soar over city walls or drop objects from the sky would be a terrifying weapon and a threat to established power. Furthermore, early flight was inextricably linked to dangerous knowledge. The primary lifting gas for a century was hydrogen. Obtaining it required sulfuric acid and iron filings, a process more akin to alchemy than respectable science. Mastering this volatile gas was as much an occult art as a chemical one. This brings us to the 20th century's greatest airship controversy. By the 1920s and 30s, America had discovered vast reserves of helium, a safe, non-flammable lifting gas. But the United States imposed a strict military embargo, banning its export. Germany, forced to use explosive hydrogen in its majestic zeppelins like the Hindenburg, was set on a path to disaster. Was this just cautious resource management? Or was it a deliberate act of geopolitical sabotage, a way to cripple a rival's civilian and military aviation ambitions by withholding the key to safe flight? The devastating, film-recorded explosion of the Hindenburg in 1937 didn't just kill 36 people, it murdered public faith in airships overnight. One must wonder, if helium had been available, would the age of the passenger airship have ended so abruptly?
It's starting to rain again. The rain had slacked up a little bit. The back motors of the ship are just holding it just enough to keep it from... It bursts into flames. Get it started. It's fighting, and it's crashing. It's crashing terrible. Oh, my. Get out of the way, please. It's bursting into flames, and it's falling on the mooring mast and all the folks between it. This is terrible. This is one of the worst catastrophes in the world. Oh, it's like 400 or 500 feet into the sky. It's a terrific crash, ladies and gentlemen. The smoke and the flames now, and the flame is crashing to the ground, not quite to the mooring mast. All the humanity and all the furniture speeding around it. I told you, I can't talk to people. There's friends around there. I can't talk, ladies and gentlemen. Honest, it's just laying there, massive smoking wreckage. And everybody can't hardly breathe and talk and screaming. Lady, I'm sorry. Honestly, I can hardly breathe. I'm going to step inside where I cannot see it. Charlie, that's terrible. Listen, folks, I'm going to have to stop for a minute because I've lost my voice. This is the worst thing I've ever witnessed.
Let's engage in some speculative history. Imagine a world where the knowledge of the ancients was coupled with 19th century engineering a few decades earlier. Imagine if Count Ferdinand von Zeppelin's vision had been realized in an era of international cooperation, not world wars. This would not have been a world of noisy, fuel-guzzling jetliners. it would have been a silent, elegant sky. A sky dominated by vast, floating hotels like the Hindenburg, which featured promenade decks, a dining room, and even a smoking lounge, safely pressurized, of course. Travel would have been an experience, not a chore or a slow, luxurious cruise 1,000 feet above the clouds. Geography would have been redefined. In 1926, an Italian semi-rigid airship, the Norga, successfully flew over the North Pole. Airships, with their ability to hover and land without runways, could have opened up the Arctic, the Amazon, and remote deserts decades before heavy-lift helicopters. They could have been the cargo ships and exploration vessels of the sky, creating a global network untouched by the limitations of ports and roads. But this timeline was not to be. The airplane, faster and more militarily agile, won the arms race. The airship, perceived as slow, vulnerable, and, after the embargo, dangerous, was relegated to advertising and surveillance. The world chose speed over grace. Yet, the dream never died. It simply went underground. You see its ghost every time the Goodyear blimp floats over a stadium. Its principles are being resurrected today by engineers who see not nostalgia, but a radical solution for our future. Modern projects like the hybrid Airlander 10, part airship, part airplane, part helicopter, are designed for tasks jets cannot do. They can stay aloft for weeks, acting as communication relays or silent observation platforms. They promise eco-friendly cargo transport to remote areas, delivering aid or machinery without needing a runway. The ancient advantage of lighter than air is becoming our newest cutting-edge technology. So, were the ancients truly dreaming of airships? The answer is a profound yes. They may not have had aluminum girders or diesel engines, but they possessed the most crucial component, the conceptual blueprint. They understood the dream of buoyancy, of navigating the ocean of air, of building a vessel for that journey. The history of the airship is not a straight line. It is a spiral. A concept dreamed in myth, glimpsed by scholars, realized in steel, tragically abandoned, and now being reimagined for a new age. It is a story of human imagination persistently reaching for a quieter, more majestic way to conquer the sky. A story that suggests our greatest inventions are often not creations, but recollections of a dream we've always had. The next time you look up and see a blimp silent glide, remember, you're not just seeing a novelty. You're witnessing the latest chapter in one of humanity's oldest and most resilient stories. The age of the airship may not be over. Perhaps it has only just begun.